Hello everyone, I am Purva Kaushik and I did my BLS LLB from Government Law College, Mumbai in the year 2018, and then I pursued my Masters in Corporate Laws from National University, Jodhpur in the year 2019, and currently I am preparing for some competitive examination. So today's topic for the lecture is Introduction to Competition Law. And under this broad topic of what competition law is, and to have a better and deeper understanding of what competition law is, it's very much important for us to understand these topics. What is a market, types of market, what is competition, what is role of competition law, and other topics, to have a overview of what competition law has to say. So firstly, to understand the applicability of competition or competition law, it's very much important for us to understand the definition of market, because when we're able to understand what market is, then only we'll be clear with the applicability, right, of the law. So when we say market, we can say that market is a combination of buyers and sellers in some area or in a region. So it's a, we can say, combination, right? And then the cost or the prices which are prevailing in the market are determined by the forces of demand and supply, because these demand and supply forces play a major role in determining the prices of the products or the services. So this is what market is all about. And then we need to discuss about the types of market. In a broader category, we have two types of markets. One is perfect market and second is imperfect market. You must have studied these types of market during your school or in economics, right? So there are two types of market, perfect and imperfect. We'll do a quick revision of what these market has to say. So in kind of perfect competition, perfect market, there are large number of sellers, there are large number of buyers, and even if there is a change in prices or there is a hike in prices by one seller, as a buyer, I always have a option to change from one seller to other, because of a wide variety or ample of sellers which are prevailing in the market, right? So there is no such changes, there is maintainability of prices, there is maintainability of quality. So this is a kind of situation which is perfect for a perfect competition. So if I have to give you an example of a perfect competition, we can say that a fruit seller, for that matter, or a vegetable seller. So these market is a type of perfect competition, because we have wide variety of fruit sellers, we have wide variety of vegetable sellers, we have ample of options to choose from, because it's the consumer who chooses it for the best suitability, or we want to always buy at the best possible price. So this is the perfect market for the consumer to have to gain more and more profit, basically. And even if not profit, we are satisfied, okay, that we have buy the best product, we have purchased the best product, and we have paid the best prices from the options we have, right? Then comes imperfect market. Okay, so imperfect market is further categorized into three types of market. One is monopoly, second is oligopoly, and third is monopolistic market. So if we have to discuss what monopoly is, we can say that monopoly is the opposite of what perfect competition is. Unlike perfect competition, where there are large number of sellers, large number of buyers, here in case of monopoly, there is only one big seller, or we can say a dominant player in the market with no other competitor. And but there are large number of buyers. So if we have to take an example, that can be Indian Railways, which is a monopoly. There is no other competitor for Indian Railways. It can decide whatever price it wants to, but the size of buyers is the same. The size of buyers is large, and there is one dominant player. This is what monopoly is. Secondly, there is oligopoly market. Oligopoly market is, I can say it runs on the same lines of what monopoly is, but there are few big sellers in the market. Monopoly has one dominant player, but under oligopoly, there are few big sellers, few dominant players in the market. That restricts the other players to enter in the market because of their huge size, because of the shares they are holding in the market. So they restrict or they create a barrier to another player to enter into market. If we can take an example, so let's take an example of automobile industry, or for that matter airline industry. So these kinds of market, there are few dominant players, and they are so huge that it is created entry barriers for any other player to enter, right? But the size of buyers again is large. We have to buy from these dominant players only. And the applicability of competition law is mostly in the oligopoly market, because what these oligopoly market or these dominant players do is they sometimes collude together, they make an agreement, and they create a hike in prices. Or sometimes what they do is they limit the supply after colluding together. So they make an agreement together, which is a kind of anti-competitive practice, also known as cartel. So when we will be discussing the features of Competition Act 2002, we will be discussing about what cartel is. I have given you an overview of what cartel is basically. So these dominant players collude together, and this is an anti-competitive practice under Competition Act. So we have only these few big sellers, and when they collude together, I have no other option to buy from, right? So I had only these limited option, and then they colluded together, they are creating hike in prices, they are limiting the supply, they are limiting the production intentionally for their own profit motives. So this is an anti-competitive practice, and this is against consumer welfare. So here there comes the role of CCI. CCI is basically Competition Commission of India, which looks into matter of anti-competitive agreements. So we will further discuss about these agreements and what is the role of CCI when we will discuss about the features of Competition Act. But I have just given you an example of oligopoly market and the practices prevailing in oligopoly market, right? Then comes the third type of market, which is monopolistic market. So monopolistic market is similar to perfect competition basically, but here when perfect competition was prevailing under the same prices, in monopolistic market there can be differentiation in prices, right? Because of the different features or different characteristics of a product or a service. For example, if we take an example of a toothpaste industry, so if Colgate and Pepsodent are competing together, right? Both are selling toothpaste, but if Pepsodent for that matter has added some salt in its features, or if Colgate came up with a toothpaste with a gel technology or gel based solution. So here, because of these added features, they can have differentiation in prices. So monopolistic market is similar to perfect competition, but the product can be differentiated, and also as a consumer, I always have a wide variety of choices, and I always have a substitute for that matter. So this is what the type of market has to say. We studied perfect, we studied imperfect market. Okay, in imperfect market we studied 3 different kinds of market. This is what market is, and this is how market is functioning by the number of buyers and sellers, by the forces of demand and supply. But here comes the question of what competition is. Because only when we are able to understand the definition of competition, we'll be able to have a better understanding of what competition law stands for, or what competition law has to do. What is the role of competition law? So, if we have to, in general term, we have to describe competition, we can say it can be an organized event where one is trying to become better than the other. In a simple language, we can say obviously that one is trying to become better than the other, or where 2 or more people are trying to achieve a goal. They're achieving a goal that can be a same goal or a different goal, but I am trying to become better than the other player in the market, right? So in this race of becoming better than the other, the role of competition law comes into picture. Because then competition law sees, or it watches you, that in this race of becoming better, or in this race to become powerful or to excel in your field, you are not using any unfair practice, or you are not using any unfair means. You are not doing anything which is prejudicial to the interest of the consumers. This is what competition law does. This is what the role of competition law is. So, to take an example, let's say if I am studying in a class of 10 students, so my competitors will be those 10 students who are studying with me, right? Why? Because we are studying the same subjects, we are preparing for the same examination. One is trying to get better than the other, or even if one is not trying to get better, one wants to excel. If I want to excel, something will be behind me, right? So there is a competition to excel and become better, right? So, as the role of competition law which we are discussing, competition law sees that in that race, you are not using anything which is affecting the competition in the market, which is affecting the economy as a whole. So now if we have to describe the 2 main objectives of what competition law is all about, we can say that first and foremost important role of competition law is to protect consumers. It watches that there should not be any activity which is prejudicial to the interest of consumers. Because competition law is all about maintaining competition, but it should not be at the cost of harm to consumers. So most importantly, it focuses on consumer welfare. And secondly, competition law says that there should not be any restriction to competition, because the main aim of Competition Act is to promote competition. And if you are acting as a player in the market and restricting any other player to enter, or acting as a barrier, it is against competition. It is bad in law. This is what competition law is all about. I have told you 2 important objectives, protecting consumer welfare and promoting and sustaining competition in the market. That is what competition law has to do. So, if we discuss the competition law in detail, in 1969, an act came into force to see that there is no concentration of economic power in few hands, or there should not be any dominant player in the market. At that point of time, MRTP Act 1969 came into force. MRTP Act, also known as Monopolies Restricted Trade Practices Act 1969. This was the first act which focuses that there should not be any restraint or there should not be any restriction to promote competition, and also the concentration of power should not be in a handful of few people. There should not be any concentration of wealth, or there should not be few dominant players who are playing in the market. So MRTP Act focuses on prohibiting, or we can say curbing, monopolies. Monopolies, as we have already discussed when we were discussing the types of market. So MRTP Act was against monopolies, and it also watches that there should not be any restriction of trade practices. So these were the main, or we can say the primary goals of MRTP Act 1969. But with the pace of the growth and with the time, a need was felt to change or to amend this law. Because why? Because we need to have more and more investment. Our country needs investment at that point of time. You must be aware of the LPG policy in 1991. LPG was liberalization, privatization and globalization. At that point of time, what we did, we opened up our economy. By opening our economy, what does it mean? It meant that we invited foreign investment into our country, right? So when there is more and more investment coming in our country, and when there is like lot of private players, there is lack of government interference, public sector to private sector, right? There was a transformation from public to private sector. So at that point of time, a need was felt that we need to have a broader perspective, or we need to have broader goals to promote competition. And MRTP Act was not sufficient enough to cater to our needs at that point of time. Also, the then Finance Minister Yashwant Singh in 1999 in his speech, he made it very clear that now this is the time we need to focus our objective, or we need to focus our goal from curbing monopolies to promote competition in the market. This is the time we need to promote competition. This is the time that we have opened up our economy, and we need to change our perspective. We need to change our mindset, right? Because according to MRTP Act, monopoly was banned, right? But at that point of time, when we opened our economy, there was obviously a market where there can be a situation which leads to rise in monopoly. But every time we cannot say that monopoly is bad in law, and our objective was very restricted, right? So even the finance minister made it very clear at that point of time. And at that point of time only, Raghavan committee has been appointed to make certain amendments to MRTP Act and to came up with suggestions which led to Competition Act 2002, right? And even I would like to draw your attention to Constitution as well, Constitution of India. So even if you have read Article 301, 302 and also Article 304B, they give government ample of power to provide freedom of trade, but with reasonable restrictions. That's what Raghavan committee did, right? It came up with an idea of Competition Act 2002 and came up with idea of establishing Competition Commission of India under Competition Act 2002 to regulate the functions, right? To regulate the functions of market, right? This is when Competition Act 2002 came into force. if we have to discuss about the basic features or why Competition Act is more, important or more relevant in terms of current scenario, and why not MRTP Act, and why MRTP Act was futile or became obsolete. So one of the important reasons I told you was it focuses on curbing monopolies, it restricted its objectives. We need a wider horizon, or we need a wider perspective to cater to our needs. And secondly, the commission on the MRTP Act, MRTPC commission that was called, Monopolies Restricted Trade Practices Commission, it only had intra-territorial jurisdiction. It did not have extraterritorial jurisdiction. But with, as I already told you, with advent of or with the incoming investment, we need to have a jurisdiction to to cater to our needs. We need to have jurisdiction to see that even if there are agreements which are being made outside India but which are affecting the Indian economy, we can penalize them, or we can have a control over those agreements. So that's when Raghavan Committee recommended CCI, Competition Commission of India, and CCI had extraterritorial jurisdiction as well. This was one of the important reasons for making of Competition Act 2002 as well. Also the term cartel, which we have already discussed while we were discussing oligopoly market, the term cartel was not defined when it comes to MRTP Act. And most of the anti-competitive agreements were in the form of cartel. So it was very difficult, penalize the agreements which were making in the form of cartel. So this, what Competition Act did, and this resulted in more, functioning in a more better way of the economy. So when we talk about the last topic, features of Competition Act 2002. So the preamble of Competition Act 2002. Preamble is basically, you must be aware that what preamble is. Preamble is basically the introductory part of an act, or we can say it lays down the objectives of what the act is all about. So the basic features of Competition Act, or we can say the 4 important most objectives of Competition Act are: number 1, Competition Act sees or watches that the consumer welfare is protected at any cost. Even if the players are doing any activity for their profit motives, or they are engaging in any activity to gain more and more profit, this should not harm consumer welfare. So it is the role of Competition Act, or we can say a role of CCI, to see that consumer welfare is protected. Secondly, an important feature of Competition Act 2002 is to see that any activity does not cause any appreciable adverse effect to competition, also known as AAEC under Competition Act 2002. What appreciable adverse effect under competition means is there are certain factors which the Competition Act has laid down, and we can, if we want to cover, we can cover it under Section 19 of Competition Act 2002. So Section 19 basically provides for various factors on which CCI sees that whether any act is having appreciable adverse effect on competition or not. So these factors might be if a player is causing any entry barrier to other player in the market, or if any players are colluding together and limiting the supply or controlling the production. So these are some of the activities which are having appreciable adverse effect on the competition in the market. So it is affecting competition, which is not good for the economy. So Competition Act sees that these acts should not be done in any way, right? Third most important feature of Competition Act is to see that there is proper freedom, there is freedom of trade practices, to see that these practices have all the rights to promote themselves, that these trading activities are functioning in a free and fair manner, and also even right now you must be seeing that there are a lot of startups coming up, there is a lot of privatization happening, there is a lot of investment coming in from foreign countries so for all these activities to run in an economy, it is very much important for a government, or it is very much important for a law to provide freedom. Freedom is very much important for good running of an economy. So this is one of the third major goals of Competition Act 2002. Lastly, what Competition Act focuses on is to see that the competition is promoting and sustaining at a proper level. So we have already discussed earlier also that the transformation from MRTP to Competition Act was done to shift our focus from curbing monopolies to promote competition. So obviously, the fourth most important feature of Competition Act is to promote competition itself and not to curb monopolies and not to describe monopolies as against law or bad in law, but to promote competition at any cost. So these are the four basic features of Competition Act 2002. Also, if I have to give you an overview of what the section deals with and what Competition Act deals with in detail, I just give you an insight of Section 3, Section 4 and Section 5. These three sections are most important, and these three sections are those on which the Competition Act totally, I can say, mostly depends. So Section 3, Section 4 and Section 5. Section 3 deals with anti-competitive agreements, which we have already discussed. It can be in the form of cartel. So when any enterprise or association of persons or between two enterprises, they make an agreement in the form of cartel or in any other manner to limit the supply or production, or to maintain the prices according to their own will, this is considered to be a competitive anti-competitive practice, if I say. So this is against Competition Act. This is what anti-competitive agreement is. Section 3 tells us what anti-competitive agreements are, what factors lead to anti-competitive agreements, and also Section 3 read with Section 19 Clause 3 tells us various factors which the CCI took for consideration while dealing that whether an agreement is causing AAEC or not, right? Section 4 talks about dominance. So if we say that I am holding a dominant position in an economy, according to Competition Act, holding a dominant position is not bad, but abusing such dominant position is against law. If we have to discuss an example on abuse of dominance and what Section 4 is all about, give you an example of Section 4. You must be aware of the Reliance Jio case that happened recently. So there were allegations made against Reliance Jio that it is abusing a dominant position, and the allegations were made by other telecom companies. So it was abusing a dominant position by its zero pricing policy, or not charging any rates for the internet connections or for calling purposes. So other telecom operators felt that it is abusing a dominant position by creating an entry barrier for them, for the other players in the market. But somehow Reliance Jio won the case, and they managed that it is not abusing a dominant position. Because to abuse your dominant position, you need to first prove that you are dominant in the market. And the other telecom operators, other telecom companies failed to prove that Reliance Jio is holding a dominant position. Also, what Section 4 says that a dominant position is not bad in law, or it is not an anti-competitive practice, but the abuse of such position is. And by abuse, what we mean is, Section 4 tells us that if you use any unfair practices to, to maintain the price or to control the production or to limit the supply, you are being a dominant player, you are abusing your position in the market. This is what section 4 is all about. Then comes section 5. Section 5 talks about combination. By combination, if we have to describe in a line or two, by combination we mean that there is merger or amalgamation of an enterprise. That merger or amalgamation should not cause any appreciable adverse effect on competition in the market. This is what Competition Commission of India looks at, that such merger or amalgamation does not affect competition in any way or in any manner. The role of CCI comes into picture when it watches section 3, section 4 and section 5. It sees that any competitive agreement, any dominant player or any merger or amalgamation is not causing appreciable adverse effect to competition. What I mean by appreciable adverse effect is mentioned in section 19 and section 20 as well. So CCI looks into various factors which are responsible to cause appreciable adverse effect. So it looks into factors such as the size of the player or the dominant player in the market. It looks at whether it is limiting or controlling the supply, what is the market share. It sees that it is not causing any entry barrier to other players in the market. It also sees that it is not letting the other players to close their firms, or it is not acting to let them exist their goodwill in the market. So this is what CCI looks. Then comes the overview of Introduction to Competition Law. So we have discussed about market and its type. We have discussed about definition of competition, the role of competition law, the transformation from MRTP to Competition Act. We have discussed basic features. We have discussed about section 3, 4, 5, which are most important section of Competition Act 2002. So this is what competition law is all about. This is the overview of what competition law has to say. This is what competition law does. So I hope that with this introductory part, it will help you to study in a better way when you study these sections in a thorough way, and when you will be studying sections, and when you will be studying the role of CCI and how the cases are relevant in the day-to-day practices. The competition cases are increasing on a day-to-day basis. So it is very much important to be very thorough and very, have an understanding of what these sections has to say, what are the lackings, what we need to improvise, or what amendments need to be made. I also want you to look into the amendments which has been recently been made in Competition Act 2002. So this was the overview. I hope it has given you or provided you with some insights of what competition law is all about. Thank you very much.